An unknown writer who signed his work only with the initials WHP wrote this piece to the spirit of the times on November 7, 1859. It appeared on the pages of the Spirit on November 26, 1859, under the heading WHP in Louisiana. Just who WHP was, we can't know for certain. He may well have been Wiley Hawkins Peck, a doctor and member of the state legislature in Madison Parish, Louisiana. The letter gives his account of his steamboat trip down the Red River on the side-wheeler, the Yazoo Belle. Alexandria, Louisiana, November 7, 1859. Dear Spirit, after a 6 days' journey down the Red River in the steamer Yazoo Belle, I have arrived at this point, and perhaps a few items of my trip may not prove uninteresting. On Friday the 28th last, having the positive promise of the captain that he would leave at 5 o'clock, a goodly number of passengers gathered, and about daylight on Saturday morning we were under way. For a week we waited at Shreveport for a boat, and this being the only one, the captain was quite independent as to the passengers and freight, but even with poor accommodations, we were glad to get off. Our number was 42. The morning was passed in making acquaintances and chatting on the scenery, weather, and prospect of a quick trip. At the sound of the dinner bell, a rush was made for the table, which seated just 28, the others having the pleasure of waiting for the second table. A plate of cold soup and tough beef formed our repast, but we were getting along and felt satisfied. The river was full of twists and turns and snags innumerable. About an hour before sunset, we found ourselves hard aground on a sandbar, but early on Saturday morning swung off. Our second day was passed similar to the first, with the exception of numerous card parties, among which poker whiskey formed the favorite game. Several large plantations were passed, and hundreds in their Sunday attire greeted us from the banks. Clouds of ducks were floating over us, and many fell to the well-aimed shots of several marksmen, which however were lost, as the boat would not be stopped to recover them. During the day we were passed by steamers Eva No. 1 and Fleta on their way up. All went lively on till dark, when we made fast to the shore for the night. Monday morning opened very foggy, and we did not get under way till 10 o'clock. Whiskey poker was again introduced as a pastime, and the bar generally was well patronized. Our dinner was of the most miserable fare, being nothing but bacon, bread, and boiled pumpkin. Passengers now began to grumble at the feed, thinking that from some of the many fine plantations the captain should at least try to obtain some butter and meat. About noon we grounded on Belize Bar, and here we lay for 48 hours. The Fleta came down and relieved us of 100 bales of cotton, and about 150 more were toted ashore. She lay by us all night and left the following morning on her way. Our passengers felt sadly annoyed to see this boat give us the go-by after leaving Shreveport 2 days later. Tuesday was spent by all hands endeavoring to relieve the boat. A few passengers went on shore, myself among the number, and after a travel of some 3 miles were fortunate in capturing 2 fine turkeys and half a dozen squirrels. 3 cabbages and 1 basket of potatoes were obtained from a plantation, which with the 2 turkeys furnished a dinner for 42 persons, the squirrels being served for breakfast. Towards the night the boat was, by the assistance of a couple of strong dead men, slipped over the bar. As perhaps many of your readers do not understand the term of dead men as applied to river navigation, I will state that it is a log of wood buried on the banks of a river to which the hawser is made fast and is capable of great resistance. Wednesday morning we were again on our way, and before noon had the gratification of overhauling the Fleta, she being hard and fast on Campton Bar. There she had been stuck for 24 hours. A great portion of her cotton was ashore, and she just beginning to move off. With a slight hindrance we passed them, everyone cheering and feeling gay at our exchanged conditions. Turning the sharp bend, we were soon in the Devil's Reach, a fearfully snaggy point, and as the large timber grated against our boat, everyone felt that the next moment was the last. But we went safely through, and I am sure none regretted getting out of the Devil's Reach. Our dinner this day consisted of a bite of chicken, one small biscuit, and a spoonful of boiled pumpkin each. Reaching Grand Ecore, a fresh supply of stores were laid in the shape of one ham, and after taking in a quantity of cotton, we started on our way rejoicing. A good portion of the day was spent shooting alligators, which were plenty along the shores, and the following morning we had the satisfaction of being informed that we would be in Alexandria by noon. An accident, however, occurring to the boat, we were detained several hours and forced to another sumptuous repast of stewed pumpkin and coffee. At 4 o'clock we reached the city, having been 6 days making a journey generally performed in 36 hours. The river is certainly very low, and the captain is not to be condemned for the time his boat made, but certainly is highly censurable for not providing his passengers with something to live on. In conclusion of my trip, I will only advise Red River travelers, if possible, to take some other boat than the Yazoo Belle. It was my intention to have passed a couple of days at the old city of Natchitoches, but my river delay prevented it. Alexandria is an improving place, it being at the head of lower river navigation. Boats are daily arriving direct from New Orleans, everything for the upcountry being transported some 2 miles around the falls. A very large hotel is being erected and several brick warehouses. Gaming appears one of the popular institutions, as brilliantly lighted bar and billiard rooms invite the patrons of Rondo to walk in, the keepers of Rondo tables paying for the privilege a nightly city license of $25. Rivers and Darue's circuses here for a few days and takes with all in town. Next week I hope to reach New Orleans, but may make one stop between, and from me you will hear more anon. Yours, W.H.P.